Welcome to the Myth of Motherhood, a podcast by, for, and about moms and those who love them. I don't believe in TMI, and this is a 100% judgment-free zone because there is no one right way to be a mother. There is only your right way. I'm your host, Alyssa Alter, a Brooklyn-based mom, women's health expert, and motherhood advocate. Curious to learn more about what I do and why I do it? Visit alyssa-alter.com. All right, let's get this myth-busting party started.
Okay, Juanina, I have a question for you.
Yes.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Ready, set, spaghetti, as I say
Yes.
to Everett.
Born ready.
What is something that you put pressure on yourself to do perfectly or right?
Uh, you know, I would say just like off the top of my head, because I literally before hopping on here just like cleaned my house. Like I always feel the need, which I like, and I realize this makes no real sense, right? Because I live in a home where two kids live, a dog, like a family lives here. Yet I am constantly feeling the need and pressure to keep the house clean to the point that when my son Tristan, who is 5, empties his box of toys, I literally like cringe and I'm like, oh God, why is he making a mess? Like, why is he? And I have to like stifle it and be like, he's a child. He's playing with the toys that we purchased him, and not go like cleaning up immediately after him.
Totally. Now, did you grow up in a house that was like very orderly?
So yes, so I was literally that's where I was going to start with this is that my mom is so my dad is military. He was military, and my mom is so she grew up in Seoul, Korea. She's Korean, and so I grew up in a pretty strict household. And my mom is like a neat freak to the nth degree. I mean, when she vacuums the house, it's like everything moves. She doesn't do like the surface vacuum that like I actually. And I'm not like that crazy. I'm more of like I just need it to look kind of tidy. I don't necessarily need to like
Yeah.
get the dust out of every corner. My mom was like the dust out of every corner person. And she tells me now how she wishes she would have just relaxed a little more with us and not been like so uptight. So I'm really trying to implement that in my day to day, but it's tough when it's like ingrained in you. It's very tough.
Yes.
And my sister's like the opposite. My little sister's like could have mess everywhere and not give a shit. And for me, it drives me crazy. It's like anxiety.
It's funny. And I asked because also, like, my dad was in the Navy and our house, and my mom is she like she's a control freak, like,
Yeah.
and I laugh because my parents, like, whether it's the house I grew up in or they also have an apartment in Manhattan, and my dad will be like, isn't it just so comfortable here? And I'm always like, no,
No.
it feels like no one lives in either of these places. And
Right.
it was always like that growing up too. Like, I think if you walked in, like, it really looked like there wasn't anyone really living there
Yes.
versus, like you were saying, like, you have two kids and like a family is like
Yes.
living
Actively
here
living.
actively, like the verb, like we
Yeah.
are like living in this space. And I totally catch myself at times being like, "Ugh," like thinking it needs to be, and I'm like, no.
Why? Like, even if no one's coming over, I still feel that pressure. It's bizarre. I'm like, what? No one cares. And my husband, honestly, is not the neatest person in the world. He literally doesn't even appreciate it, really. So why I like go nuts? And the boy, like my kids don't, they could give a
They
shit. So
don't
like,
care.
why I care? I mean, I do it for myself. It does help me
Yes.
feel a little more tidy, but there's like levels and extremes of things. And I feel like I'm a little, I need to pull it back.
Well, yeah, because also after you tidy up and everything is like orderly, like, I mean, there's science around this. Like, that feels good. And if it's
It
what you're
does.
used to, also, like, it does,
Yes.
like that sense of accomplishment,
Hmm.
that like lack of clutter, all of that is
Yes, like
great. Not
clearing the
knocking
space.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh God, I see you. I see you.
We're like this.
I
I know.
yes. Um, And so something I'm excited to talk to you about today is well, I mean, I'm always excited to talk to you about literally anything and everything.
Oh,
Um
thank you. You too.
is the like, and I wonder, like, with this, how did this show up? Like, transitioning to two kids, like from one kid to
Hmm.
two kids. Um I guess I'll start by asking, like, in terms of this, like, desire for tidiness, like,
Yeah.
did that really make you nuts, or like, I don't
Yeah.
know, how did that look?
So So I will say that it's hard to say with like not necessarily the transition to two kids, but just having kids, like having a child, I think.
Yeah.
I talked to one of my girlfriends about this a lot because she's like us. She like definitely wants like a tiny home. Like she cares, like it matters to her. And I do think sometimes for us mamas that feel that way, like momming is a little harder because we tend to nitpick, a little controlling over certain things around the house. Whereas like my sister, for example, who her house, not that it's a mess, but she doesn't care. Like if it's disorderly a little bit, it's not like she's like freaking out or chomping at the bit to clean it up. I feel like her day is just a little easier, just like,
Yeah.
and so I think when you're becoming a mom, when you're like that, can be a little tough. I don't know. It's an adjustment for sure because you want everything where you want it. And when you have a child, it's just not, the way your life is anymore.
Yeah. Oh. It is. It's just, I mean, because it's sort of like at the beginning, and I mean hindsight being 2020, right? And
Sure.
now like Everett's 3.5, so it's like different looking back at the newborn phase. It's like the house could be as
Mm,
tidy as I want it. It's not like
exactly.
it. Then it's like piece by piece, just chipping away at this part of
Mm,
yourself.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because then they become mobile, and then they can
Yes.
move things, and then they want to do certain things, and then like something I remind myself is that it's also like if Everett has an idea of something he wants to do in this house, like it's his house also.
I know. So true.
Right? I
Like
mean,
let
sure,
them
his name
live.
his name isn't on the mortgage, but like this is his house. Like
Right.
he gets to live here as he wants to live within reason
Right, of course.
also, but that sometimes does challenge what I want in this
Hmm.
house.
Hmm.
And it's just like I know that's only going to like obviously that's just going to continue as like these guys get older and
Oh my
more
gosh.
independent and have fuller lives of their own.
Yes, and I do think there's like a certain age where it becomes like the most challenging, right? I feel like when they get older, they're kind of out of the house more. They don't have as much stuff in like common spaces. Like they'll probably have like their room, like the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 age. I feel like there's just stuff everywhere all the time because they kind of want to be with you. They want to, play with you. They have like little Legos and little toys and action figures and with Jack, my youngest, he is just getting to where he's kind of like rolling and crawling, but like his little baby toys are now it's just like, it's
Yeah.
just stuff all the time. Like I feel a constant need to like purge things, just like out of here. Who needs this?
Which is
Who needs
good.
that? Yeah, yeah.
Which is good. And I love the way you speak so openly and just like it's like it's more than just honestly. It's just like so like did I already say presently? Like you could just
No, I,
it's so relatable the way that you talk about now having two kids. And I mean, I don't feel like you
yeah,
didn't talk this way about having Tristan.
right.
Um and just him and in being in motherhood with that, but like there's so much this like there's just so much pressure, especially like if you are someone who has any sort of platform or is present on social media, right, to like
Hmm.
only present the grid worthy
Hmm.
information and pictures, and you just speak about it in a way that is just so real that it's like it would be impossible to like listen and be like not me, unless I mean not that everyone has the exact same experience, but it's
Right.
just so relatable and I so appreciate that. And like were you always like that, or is that something that like you
Yeah.
developed?
I will say, so social media. I think that I've always thought a couple things about social media. One, that I would never post anything that I wouldn't want my grandmother to see, which I think is a rule that like you got to put
That's a
out there,
good
especially
rule.
for like young kids today who are like, because I'm almost 40. So like Facebook wasn't even a thing until I was like 21 or 22. So like social
Oh
media
yeah.
definitely was like a later thing for me. And when I decided to start sharing my life more openly on social media, mostly due to work originally, like when I was shifting into the wellness space there during COVID, is when I really started to share more. But I kind of found my niche more in like motherhood. I don't know, because that was my real life, right? Like this isn't like a
Yeah.
curated, for me anyways, it's not like a curated platform. It's like my stories are like what I'm doing, maybe not in that exact moment, but maybe what I did that morning, And so it's my real life. And I do think that, and look, social media people can post what they want, but my opinion is if you are going to share your life on social media, please share it like the real parts as well. Don't just share like your most perfect moments. I think that kind of breeds this just like the sense of like perfection that like can never be reached. Every now and then throw in when your kid is like being an asshole. Like throw in when your husband or your wife pissed you off. Like, every now and then, even if you
Yeah.
put like a joke around it, just kind of, because when things are too, I have actually unfollowed or muted certain accounts that I like, or maybe they're even friends of mine, and because I just don't want to see that content popping up. Because I mean, if it doesn't make me feel good or inspire me in some way, I kind of don't want to see it because it can really mess with your
100%.
mind. And we have so much information coming at us. So
I
I'd
think that's
be
also
picky.
it is such a good reminder, and we actually somewhat recently had Sarah Peterson on the show. She
Okay.
wrote a new book called Momfluenced that's
Oh,
all
cool. I'll
about
check
like
that out.
momfluencer culture. And she made that point that you just made, and it bears repeating that like we have to remember that like social media is a powerful tool, right?
Yep.
There's so much good that comes out from, and especially during like once like lockdown happened, to
Oh,
be
yeah.
able, like the ability to connect to people and create relationships, and that is real. And there's also the side that makes you feel like fucking trash,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that right, that it's like,
Couldn't have said
well,
it better myself.
I
Yeah.
I'm here with like no shirt on, just like crying in the
Oh my
corner,
gosh.
but they're having a professional photo shoot and the kids are well behaved and
Oh my gosh.
the parents are so hot for each other and all of these right, and there's like
I don't know if
only
you're like
healthy
referring to a
sex.
certain like influencer, but I feel like I might know. Like,
Like all of
yeah,
these
for
things
sure.
that like just make you feel like what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
That that yes, we can understand that these things are curated, but also we can mute accounts. We can unfollow
Hmm.
and then refollow later. That
Yes. And I've
that
done that. I'm
we
guilty of that for sure.
which but you're not guilty of it. Like that's like an
Right.
empowered decision. That's
That's
like
true. That's our choice.
I actually do get to curate this tool
Hmm.
for myself, and I'm allowed to. And by
Yeah.
muting it, people don't know that you muted them. So if you're worried
Correct.
about hurting someone's feelings, you
They
don't
don't
have
know.
to hurt. They don't have to know. And
Yep.
you get to take care of yourself. That like
Yes.
we get to participate in this also. And when
Yeah.
you need a break, take a break. Like unless it's me or Juanina. Like just keep
Then keep
following,
watching.
liking,
Okay.
sharing, watching,
All right.
saving,
Boost the engagement
engaging.
for us, please.
Yep.
Yes.
Tell your
No,
friends.
for
No, but
sure.
even from us, if you
Yeah.
need a
No, for
break,
sure.
take
If I
a
don't make you feel like happy or like
break.
at least just like even just neutral, then yeah, because I think there's such a fine line between sort of like inspiration, positivity, and just straight up jealousy or straight up just, then you're all of a sudden you're like scrolling or looking at someone's content and it becomes negative very quickly, and it's such a
Yeah.
fine line and you have to know yourself and know when you're like shifting into that mode and like, all right, I got to pull back because even if you are like, even for myself, a lot of what I post is a highlight reel. That's for anyone, even those
Yeah.
people that do share, the down and out parts of your life. There's still so much of like the highlight reel that even people that share both, sometimes you might need a break from because there's still sort of that.
Yeah. Totally. Um, wait.
You see me?
Okay, I see you. Wait, will you say the last thing you said one more time?
Yeah, what did I say? Oh my goodness. I think I said that essentially, I think I said that basically, even if you're a person that shares both sides of yourself on social media, it's still one side is still very much the highlight reel, right? So it might be challenging to always see that, even if there are like the little drips of the negativity or the things that maybe aren't going so well in your life. So if you need to unfollow someone or mute, it's just like highly recommended to do so, even if it's just for a little while.
Yeah. 100%. So, and this is like the perfect segue because you can also like we can find ourselves not wanting to share the truth,
Sometimes, yeah, for
you
sure.
know, especially when I think it's easy to forget that when we're doing that, it's like this is a human being sharing the truth about their experience.
Hmm.
So even if even if I were to watch something and like that's not going to be my truth, that is not aligned with how I do it, like that
Right.
doesn't mean I get to say you're wrong or you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I mean, I at least don't believe that. Like that but there are plenty of people who do take that as an invitation to be outwardly critical.
Oh my
And
gosh. Absolutely.
I'm wondering when, you shared so openly, like I loved it. I ate up every second of it because we are aligned like this, that
Mhm.
when you brought Jack home
Yeah.
after having your second, having a newborn, Tristan was already 5
He had, was he
or
already
was
5?
about?
No, no, he's about to turn 5. Yeah, because we brought Jack home. He was born at the end of July, and Tristan turned 5 in November. So a few months
So
different there.
right, and so you not only have a child already, but you have a kid,
Hmm.
right? This isn't like he's fully aware. He understands. He knows what his usual jam is, and it's
Right.
changing. And I love how it seemed the way that I saw is that you really took into account your entire family as you navigated that transition.
Yes.
Now, in doing that, that means that you, Juanina, you did not make everything about the newborn. You
I did
did
not.
not sacrifice
Mm-mm.
everyone and everything in favor to like keep your boob in his mouth
Mm-mm.
24/7, to rock him to sleep and he only
Right.
slept on your body, to, you know, do all the things I'm trying to like come up with exaggerated things where it's just like you
The crazy,
everything
yeah,
else disappears and every
right,
single thing. And I'm also not criticizing if that's something that someone does. Like, do you know
right,
what I mean? Like, also, I was able
absolutely.
to do that with Everett because I didn't have another kid. But you really considered your whole family and
Hmm.
how did that feel for you? Having that like different experience and also like I guess like what feedback did you get any feedback? I'm
Right.
sure you got feedback. There we are
You
women,
know
we
it.
are mothers, there's
Yeah.
always feedback.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I would say first and foremost, yeah, like what you just said about Everett, with Tristan, when you have your first, you just have you have more time, right? Because you don't have another child that you're dealing with. I mean, for me, with that came a lot more like stress, and there wasn't like the learning curve that I had with Jack. So there was like an ease with my second that I felt that I certainly didn't feel with Tristan. But I have one little sister, so I am the oldest child, and I remember kind of what that feels like in many ways. And I really wanted to be careful. And Tristan also is very much like, he's a bit of a mama's boy. He likes to be with me all the time. He's definitely a boisterous, yet also I don't want to use the word needy. I feel like there's a more positive word than needy, but I'm just gonna say it. He's a needy child. He like wants you all the time, and when he wants you, it's like he's very stubborn about it. So I knew that this transition could potentially be very challenging for him if we didn't handle it in like the right way, if you will. And also, a newborn, for those of you who've never had one, they don't really do anything. Like, it is 24/7 care in the sense they need to be fed and they sleep, but they literally sleep truly. I mean, and it's weird because it doesn't necessarily feel like this because they are up so much at night, but they really do sleep like 18 hours a day sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. Their needs aren't the same as like the needs that maybe a 4 or 5 year old or a 3 year old would have. So we wanted to make sure we that Tristan felt very involved in the process. So like asking him to grab a baby wipe or asking him to give, Jack a snuggle, just like making sure that he was like involved, but also making sure that I did little things with him. So like taking him out in the afternoon. And I will say that like my mom came and stayed with us for a month. So I did have that support. I know not everyone has that. My husband, unfortunately, with his job, he didn't really get paternity leave, so he went right back to work. So luckily, my mom was with me, so it did give me a little flexibility in that first month. But one thing that was a little controversial was that we had planned before even getting pregnant with Jack the year before a Disney cruise for Tristan's 5th birthday. I think this may be what you're referencing.
Yeah.
So we literally for like 3 months were like, what do we do? Like, because we had originally thought we could just take Jack because he'd be a little over 3 months old at the time, but you can't take a baby on a cruise ship until they're 6 months old. We just weren't aware of this rule. We found
Who
out this
knew?
rule like right around the time he was so we literally had a few months to like figure out what we were going to do. Do we just cancel the trip? I mean, that's really like, do we cancel it or do we figure out, like what we're going to do with our 3 month old? And what we decided to do is, my mom is a bit of a baby whisperer, is, have my mom watch Jack for the 5 days that we went on this cruise, which did spark some, to me, just sort of like unwarranted feedback from certain people,
Yeah.
of just like how could I kind of thing. And not that I feel the need to justify my choice necessarily, but for the sake of just like sharing here, again, a newborn, as long as they are like fed and, loved and cared for, which my mom could 100% provide that, there was, the needs are just so different. Like Tristan, I think, needed this. He also knew about it. So it's like, how could we just cancel this trip that this 5-year-old
Yes.
is looking forward to because of his little brother? I mean, like, we really tossed this around for a long time. And finally, we decided, you know what? Jack honestly couldn't be in better hands with my mom. We're going to go and enjoy this trip with Tristan. So that's what we decided to do.
I think it's incredible. I think because it yeah, people are going to make all sorts of judgments and
Mhm.
assumptions, and how could you?
Yeah.
Um,
How could
I
I?
did. This is how. This is how
Yeah.
I did it.
This
This
is
is
my
how I
choice.
could do it. I had support from my mom,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
yep, that
Yeah.
that was integral to this. Like,
Yes.
we
We're
weren't
not
gonna leave
leaving
Jack
him with
home
like the
alone,
neighbor. Right. Exactly. And I think that
right?
too, if there's like any advice I could give like a new mom or like a young mom, is just like do what like trust your gut. If something feels right to you, just there's so many opinions and especially like judgments, I feel like that are showered upon mothers nowadays because there's just so many people that feel you should do this or you should do that or how could you do that? And you just have to do what's best for you and your family. Just like period.
That's I was just gonna say, and like for I was gonna ask you how, because I talk about like how I navigate this distinction, but there's so much external input around this stuff, right?
Hmm.
And there's
Hmm.
only one right way to do it, which
Right.
is not true.
Completely false. Yeah.
And you're not immune to that either. I'm sure, like, that those comments hurt your feelings and spoke to
Hmm.
pieces and parts of you that have
Hmm.
internalized this message. Like, you're a human.
For sure. It made me think,
And
like, am I doing the right thing? Like, should I not be
oh,
leaving my 3-month-old? But then I'm like, it's 5 days with my mom. Like, of course I can leave him.
100%.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Like, how do you stay connected to, and when that stuff comes in, reconnect to or
Mm.
navigate? Like, how much of this is that like external stuff seeping in? And then how do I connect to what really is my decision for my family and my son? Because
Hmm.
I say this flippantly, but there's also part of me, like, I think it speaks to this truth that, like, listen, Everett and I have known each other a while now. We have like a really good thing going. We're
Yep.
like really into each other. This new baby's a stranger. Like, I don't even know him.
No, but you
Like,
have a very good point. I mean, it's kind
right? Like,
of true.
we had like,
Again, as
oh,
long as they're cared for, like I mean, the newborn doesn't know the damn difference. Who's giving him the bottle? Who's snuggling him to bed? As long as it's someone that you truly trust. And honestly, if it wasn't for my mom, I would not have. In
absolutely.
my life, I mean, sure, other moms might have grandparents or whatever, but like for me, it was like my mom would be the only person, and she also really wanted to do it, which also, Jack for her, I
Yeah.
think is just like I don't know. I think just like very special to her. And my mom doesn't live in like I live in New York and my mom doesn't live in New York, so she lives in Georgia. So it's not like she gets to see her grandkids all the time. So like anytime she can get like a chunk of time with them, she really wants it. So for so many reasons, this was like not just what I chose to do, but like the right thing to do. 5,000%.
I love that. And you just like,
Yeah.
so when you are in those moments where you're not sure, is there
Yeah.
anything that like is your go-to thing to do to get centered, to like figure it out, to navigate the like
All the
mess
things.
that's
I know.
swirling around and like get
I think for me, because I'm also, going back to like me being open on social media, and I say things kind of like you, we have like a certain wit and humor about us. I'm going to use this as an example. I called Jack an asshole in a story. I was like, this kid is an asshole. He did not sleep last night, and it was just funny. It was funny.
yeah.
But someone in particular had an opinion about it, and sort of like my family friend, whatever. And I just was really like, I think, what it is for me at this point and at my age and where I am in life is I really don't give a shit anymore what people think. I really don't. There was a time that I did, but like I really, and I'm trying to, and I'm trying to figure out like when that was where that shift changed. But if I do something, and look, there's still times when I do things and I know in my heart, like that probably wasn't the right thing to do. And then, yes, I'll probably feel some
Sure.
guilt and need to work through it. However, when it's something that I truly have didn't think twice about it, but then someone comes to me like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that," or "So and so said you did that." I'm literally like, I don't care. Like I'm not even gonna let that into my energy
Well,
field
it is,
because if it
yeah,
didn't
because
resonate with me, then I don't care that it really resonates with you in that way. Like
right, and
sorry.
it's also it's so you've had the life experiences and
Yeah.
filed them away in a way that it you're being honest with what you need to do,
Yes.
and that those responses are about that person. They have nothing to do with you.
Especially
It's
something
like,
like
oh, that brought something up for you, huh?
right, especially something like, a joke or calling a kid. I mean, to me, things like that are funny and they're
100%.
and it's not something I would say to his face, at least not yet, but like you know what I mean? Like I think those are funny things and I don't think that it's going to damage the child even if I
No.
feel like for example, if I heard that my mom called me an asshole when I was a baby, I 5,000% would feel absolutely no hate towards her. I'd be like I
Yeah.
probably was. So I
Yeah.
think people also have to calm down and just keep your opinions to yourself. If it doesn't concern you in your day-to-day life, why are you so concerned with what other people are doing? I
Yeah.
don't know. Strange
No,
to me.
I totally get. I found it really interesting somewhat recently. This happened. I post a lot about like my birth trauma and that
You do.
because it fucked me up. Okay.
Yeah.
Like it
Well, and
did.
I mean, yeah,
And
it's
it's,
definitely
and
a
it's,
story.
it is a story.
6 of 1.
And how that is also still present in my excitement to have a second.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever hold back also how much I enjoy being a mom and how much fun I have and
Right.
like all of that. But I posted something and it was about things being really hard. And I
Hmm.
think it was when I was talking about how it was a really difficult decision or it took a lot of work to be ready to get pregnant again. Like I had a lot of stuff I needed to work through to not
Yeah.
be terrified.
Yeah.
And I was like talking about how hard that was. And I like got a couple comments that were like, then why are you having a second?
Oh,
Like if you hate being a mom so much,
oh
why
my
are you
God.
having a second? And I just was like, whoa,
Pump the brakes. Never said I hated being
wow.
a mom, and
No
I
one
feel like,
ever said that. And also like it all that does is, and like I think because working in this space, talking about this all the time,
mhm,
talking to other moms, it really is like it's just so clear, like how much we're not allowed to speak to the entire spectrum of
mhm.
this experience, right?
Yes.
It's not
No, absolutely.
all one or the other.
Right.
And obviously, it's pretty freaking incredible because we keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And but going back to like people taking things like too seriously or too extremes, this is a perfect example. It's like when I had Tristan, I was less active on social media, but I did do a post when I was going back to work, a really long one on I think it was Facebook and Instagram, and it probably got the most response up until that time that I've ever gotten before
Yeah.
because I was literally just like, I just like vented on the page for whatever reason. At the time, like I said, I wasn't really doing this kind of thing. And I was just like, I'm going back to work. I'm really kind of sad about it. But had you had asked me a month ago, I would have welcomed it. This was so challenging. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. I just like laid it all out, because I had a really tough time
Yeah.
transitioning into motherhood with Tristan. And so many of my friends, even acquaintances, like Facebook friends who I haven't seen in years, were commenting like, "Oh my God, I feel the same way. This is so true. I felt this way with my first, second, third, whatever." And it's just from that, I had a few people in my friend and family group that were like, "Oh, like what if Tristan sees that later on in life? Like, as if you didn't really want him, that kind of thing. Like, oh, well, if you hate
Yeah.
being a mom." And I'm like, no,
Who
no,
said
that is
that?
not like really, like read it again, okay? Like let's again pump the brakes. That is not all what
Yes.
I said. You can have it's like your job. Like you can love your job, but like some days it can frustrate the shit out of you. It's like I mean, you can literally compare this in every aspect of life, your partner, your kids, your
I was
job,
gonna
your
say,
day
like
to day,
marriage, like
literally, your friendships, everything. Like there's a good and there's a
100%.
spectrum of things that can happen and a wide range of emotions. And motherhood to me is like the most extreme because I've never had someone drive me more crazy, but like also someone that I've loved so much, and that's
God.
just the way motherhood is. So when someone makes that comment to me, I'm either like, okay, you don't have children, or maybe you have like one who was like a super easy child that was just like, and you just can't imagine. I don't know. I'm not sure. I really don't know how any
Yeah.
mom, even if you have like the easiest kid in the world, could not see
I
us,
know.
like see that.
I'm just like, you know what? I'm really happy for you that you don't know
Right.
what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
incredible.
Yeah.
I can't
Can't
relate to that
relate.
at all.
No.
And
Mm,
really, I'm so happy for you that you can't relate to me. Like,
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Right.
How did you do that?
Right. Like if you're gonna drive, can you like send over some tips and pointers as to
Yeah,
like
like,
how you're
is
not being driven crazy by your 3-year-old? Like, you know what I
is
mean? Pissing on
there
the floor
actually a
and throwing his
manual?
plate. I know. I know.
Is it,
It's
do you
crazy.
have it?
I know.
Can you
Like,
send it
where
to
is
me?
it?
Because it's insanity over here.
It really is. Oh, it really, and it's so quick too. It's like literally 1 second. It's like everything's perfect, and then the next second, God forbid, whatever happens, and then your kid's going nuts.
I s- I said that to Jeremy recently. Like Everett just, like he switched gears and like turned
Mm-hmm.
into like he
They
like
switch them
hulked
quick.
out.
Yeah.
And like it's age appropriate. It was all
Correct.
like
Yeah.
totally none of this is shocking. And I turned to Jeremy and I was like, wow, what's really impressive is just how quickly I'm furious.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I have no chill right now. Like I have
Whew.
no perspective of like his brain is freaking out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead, my whole body's like, I'm hulking out too. And like, and I was like, I'm not even mad, but
Right.
I am.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So it's like the energy. It's a lot.
yeah.
I
And I'm like,
know.
I'm supposed to keep my cool, and I am not.
No,
This
I
one
know.
right here is
We
not cool.
try, we really try. And sometimes we succeed, but not always. Not always. I'm all for gentle parenting, but like don't think you're going to get it 100% of the time. Like it's not possible.
Well,
You're
also,
gonna lose your shit every now and then.
and that's like part of also gentle parenting is modeling what it looks like to lose your mind, and then
Yeah.
how do we then
Build from it or
repair it?
yeah, yeah, repair it.
How
Yeah.
do we move forward and be like, what? Yeah, I was not being patient either. I
Yep.
think next time I should I think maybe I'll take some deep breaths. What do you think I should
Hmm.
do? I'm really sorry. Like that wasn't your fault. I
Right.
lost my patience.
Yes. As someone who meditates and does a lot of yoga, I walk out of the room and take deep breaths a lot. Sometimes, like right now, Tristan's on spring break, so like every hour on the hour, it's kind of like a deep breath
Mommy's gonna
moment.
go take a deep breath.
Come back to center. Yes.
And I get such a kick out of like there was a time recently I was like, you know what, Ev? I gotta a mommy's gotta take a couple deep breaths. I was like,
Uh-huh.
I am. And
I'm
he just
here.
like he joined me.
I know. I think
And
they teach it
then
a lot in schools too, which I think is cool.
so cool, but it's also again, I'm going from losing my mind to then he like joins me and I'm like,
Yeah.
I love you so much. I
I
love you
know.
so much. Come here. I'm so
I
lucky
know.
to be your mom. Like I can't believe that I get to be your mom.
I know. One of those moments. Those are the best. I know. One time my husband like lost it. He gets really frustrated in traffic and he's like, and Tristan was in the back. This was a couple years ago. He's like, calm down, daddy. Take a deep breath. And I'm literally like, oh my God.
My
We're doing
baby.
something right. I know, my baby. I know, it was really funny. And then I looked at Ryan like, all right, you need to check the pessimism, okay? He sees you.
You look over him and you're like, get your shit
Yes.
together. You heard Tristan.
Right, you
Get
heard
it
him.
together.
Stop cursing out the car in front of you who didn't move quickly enough with the red light or the green light or whatever. I know. So funny.
Um, Another question for you,
Yeah.
Juanina. It's something, and I think you know this about me that I'm very passionate about is time by myself.
Mm,
Very protective of
same
it.
girl.
I like to mark it,
Hmm.
acknowledge it,
Hmm.
savor it.
Mm.
What is your favorite thing to do by yourself?
Oh, my favorite thing to do. Honestly, I like doing like anything by myself. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed being alone until I like had a family. It sounds so awful, but it's true because you just don't get that time, like you did when you're single or you're young, you just when you have kids around you all the time or even your partner. I mean, same thing. It's just like there's just always people. And if
Yeah.
so I love doing anything, but like if I had to pick like my sort of like guilty pleasure, like indulgent thing, like if I get a night alone or a night when maybe the kids go to bed early, maybe Ryan's out or working late, is like to eat something like I love, like whatever that may be, whatever I have, maybe like pizza, pasta, usually something delicious like that, and then just like watch a show. Like I love TV. I love to like get into a show and just like settle in and like binge watch a couple episodes. Mm,
Is there
that's
something you're
true self-care.
currently binging?
Okay, so I just finished Daisy Jones and the Six. Have you seen that yet?
Okay, I keep hearing this. I haven't watched it.
Oh, it's so good. It's
Okay.
so, so good. So I just finished that. I'm embarrassed. I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but I got into, and I never really watched it before, but I got back into Vanderpump Rules. It's a reality
Oh my God.
show.
Oh my,
Do you watch it?
listen, I watch Bravo everything. I never, well, I got back into it. I never left. I've
You're,
been here the
you're like, I've
whole
seen all
time
10 seasons.
watching Vanderpump. I
I
watch
love that.
Housewives are my jam. And the fact that like, we moved to New Jersey, I'm like
Oh,
not far
yeah.
from them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never
Like,
watched the New Jersey Housewives. Okay. I know. I've
well,
heard that a lot
his
happens.
but also, I mean, there's just so much history. Like, I don't even know where
Yes,
you start, but also at the
right.
same time, like on all these shows, nothing happens. So you could start wherever and you'll
And that is why I like that kind of TV.
Yes.
Like a Daisy Jones and the Six show, that's one you need to sit after that's like a you need to focus show. Those other shows you can kind of watch while you're doing other things, and I appreciate
Wait a
that. I
minute.
appreciate the mindlessness.
Wait a minute. You are able to you sit down and watch a show after the kids go to bed?
Yeah.
Wow.
My kids do go to
I
bed
go
early though.
I go to bed.
You're like, I don't even attempt that. What time does Ever go to bed?
He's usually it's been getting a little later. It's like 8:30.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so
Yeah, and then
Tristan,
I go brush my teeth and
you
wash
go to
my
bed.
face and
I
I
get
go
it.
to bed. But I also did that
Oh.
before I was pregnant again.
Right. So I will set my kids get up at the ass crack of dawn. Like Tristan has always been like a 5:30 kid. It's just who he is. Now he's 5.
Yep.
Like I realized this wasn't like a phase. This is like who he is at the core of
Is it,
like his soul.
yep.
And so my kids could have been, I mean, like Jack is in bed at like 6:30, like 6:30, 6:40. Tristan usually is in bed like 7:30 to 8. So then I can get in like a show or two if I'm really into it. I'll stay up
Mm.
until like 10. So like 2, maybe I can get 2 or 3 shows in. 10 is usually my bedtime. But Daisy Jones and the Six the other night, I stayed up till midnight because I had to keep watching. That was
Whoa.
crazy. I didn't even tell
That's
Ryan about it
insane.
because he would have been like, "What are you doing with your life?"
Like
Like that was
it
actually
got wild.
it got
It
crazy. I was like, I couldn't stop. I was like, "Oh my God, it's midnight, and I'm like, I'm gonna die tomorrow." Luckily, I slept pretty. Jack slept through, so I got like a good
Good
six
job,
hour
Jack.
block. He knew I was watching Daisy, and he couldn't.
He's like, Mom, I'm gonna give you this.
Give it to me. Yes, it's so good. You really need to watch it. You need to watch it. And then I'm so excited for Vanderpump, like all this crazy stuff that's like going on with that. That's why I got
I
back into it.
know.
I watched like the first season. I dug it. I fell off of the wagon for whatever reason. Then I heard about like how this was so dramatic, so I started watching it.
It's
Yeah.
so dramatic. And, understand why we're spending so much time talking about the whole Ariana and Sandoval and Raquel thing. But I also
Hmm.
am wondering why in the press we're not also giving enough airtime or attention to the fact that James is clearly not over Raquel, and he's got this
Clearly.
girlfriend, and he's talking about putting babies in her
Right. Like,
and
yeah.
and proposing.
Right.
Meanwhile, he cannot handle that Raquel is nearby, that she's
Yep.
talking to anybody else, whether it's romantically or not, and is even talking to his new girlfriend about basically being jealous and like still in love with her.
It's so
Why aren't
true.
we talking about that?
No one's talking about like
I
his whole thing really. Like yeah, there was an episode where he was talking to Lisa, remember? And he like started to tear up
Yeah,
talking about like Raquel. So yeah.
I know.
I
This
don't know.
is
Drama,
listen,
drama,
we should
drama.
be in charge.
Yeah.
We should
Hey,
and
Andy from Bravo.
or at least maybe not in charge. Andy, you are brilliant at what you
Truly.
do, and
Good.
I want you to keep going. Also, maybe Juanina and I should like have a,
You should go on
something.
What's his show? The night one? It's like his
Oh, watch what
live.
happens live.
Watch What Happens Live. We should be on that.
Yeah,
Talk
how do we
about
get
all the
on
things.
that?
I don't know. I'm gonna look through
I
my
don't know.
contacts. See if we can make
Yeah,
a
I'm
call.
gonna. Do we know? Do we know anybody? If you listening, if you know somebody, like
Yes.
let us know.
Yes. I would love it. Love some Andy Cohen. Too funny.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
So
No, and
good.
that's so good. And also, I'm gonna need all these I'm gonna be binging all of this for maternity leave. Although I'll be
Oh
up to date on
yes.
Bravo because that's how I
You
live my
you have
life.
to binge so many things on because I even with Tristan and for you, like with even though you have another one, right? There's still so much time that you have just like with the newborn, like we put a TV in the nursery so that I could just sit and like watch TV. And I did. I watched, did you watch The Summer I Turned Pretty on Amazon Prime last summer that came out?
No.
Oh my gosh. The second season comes out this summer. You have that it's perfect. It's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's just it makes you feel cozy and and it's about like 16-year-olds, but whatever, it's just like cozy and sweet and romantical and watch it. Like wait until you're like ready, like fully in
Okay.
maternity leave
Okay.
mode, just chilling, watch it.
Oh, okay.
Ugh,
I'm excited. That feels really good.
the
And I think
summer, yeah, so good.
isn't there like a new season of Bridgerton coming?
I never got into Bridgerton. I
Mm.
know. I
Mm.
need to watch it. It's
Yeah,
not
I'm
because I
just
like
sad for
watched it
you.
and didn't get into it. I like actually just never watched it. So there's one on my list. Gotta check
The
it out.
costumes are beautiful. The
Yes, I'm
costumes are
sure.
really,
And I
really
like that like era.
beautiful.
Like I love like Pride and Prejudice and like those,
Well,
Emma,
but
like those
it's
movies.
also modern. Like
Okay.
it's set in that time, but it's like not historically accurate.
Oh, I
Like a
see.
lot of things that are happening, you're like,
Is it
that's
like
very
Romeo
modern,
and
but there
Juliet
is
circa 96 with Leo? Like kind of like that? Did they like make it kind of crazy?
I that's probably a good comparison. Also, remember that.
Also remember that.
Remember that?
We are
Oh,
showing our
but
age, girl. I know. I saw it on one of our streaming channels. I was like, I'm about to watch that soon. There was
that's
nothing
something.
like 96 Leo with his
Oh,
hair and like his cigarette.
yes. And it's funny. There there have been so many things coming out I mean, now that chokers, crop tops, essentially
Oh,
Janko jeans
yes,
are
yes.
back, and like the
I know.
platforms, and it's everything that like we were wearing. It's just like these moments like I don't feel like I'm old enough to have that much time behind me.
I agree. I
You know?
100% agree. My niece is 13 and like everything she wears, I'm 1,000% sure I owned like in 1996. And I'm just like, what? And then
Totally.
I think that like in my mind, if I quickly think about 1996, I'm like, oh, that was like 10 years ago. Like, no, no,
I
no,
know.
no. That was like
No.
30 years ago. Like it was
30
so long ago.
something years ago.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
it was a
like it
minute
was
ago. Yeah.
yeah, it's bananas.
I know. Gotta live in the moment, guys. You really do, because the time really does fly, with or without, just in general. Like time is just
Well, speaking
like,
about
oh,
that too, does that intensify? This is just me asking on as I'm entering into two kids. Does
yeah.
that does that intensify, or is it still sort of the same rate of going very slow and very fast at the same time?
I think it's still a similar. So for me, and I always say for me too, right? Because motherhood is so individual. Like take
Yeah.
everything that anyone says with a grain of salt because your experience may be so different. But I find that time in some ways moves incredibly fast because you're just so busy. You're just so busy. It's
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, you're like, holy shit, like I barely had a minute to breathe like some days because it's just like momming, work, dinner, grocery, whatever. Like it's just like a long
Yeah.
list of things to do. But then for me, because Jack is my second and very likely my last, I tend to savor him a little more and I tend to try to like savor moments. Like yesterday morning, Tristan's on spring break and we just had like an easy morning, kind of like getting up before I went, I had to go to the city for work. And I was just kind of like looking at them, and Tristan's just like watching
Yeah.
his TV show, eating his breakfast, and Jack is like bouncing his bouncer. And I was like, oh man, this is like really nice. So trying to mindfully take a second and be like, let me just like sit in this for a minute. Because sometimes when I think back to when Tristan was a baby, I swear I don't remember like anything. Like I feel sometimes like, wow, I like don't remember so much because it was just like such a crazy time. So I really want to try to
Yeah.
savor as much as I can.
Yeah. I've heard a lot that the comparing the transition from 0 to 1 and then
Mhm.
1 to 2, that it is a lot like that the 0 to 1 is it's just they're both overwhelming, but it's even more intense from 0 to 1
For me,
because
it was. Yes.
everything's new. You've never
Ugh,
done any of it before. Whereas
right.
with the second one, like you have a frame of reference,
You do.
you've had experiences, you
Hmm.
know what to like spend your time and energy on, and where you
Absolutely.
can like totally relax and be fine that like Tristan's watching TV and so's Jack.
Yep,
And
yep, it's all
he's there
good.
and the screen is
Yeah,
on. You know,
whatever.
like I
No,
tried
it's
to
true.
think about a lot of that with Everett the first time around, just sort of like how am I going to handle this when they're two? Like,
Hmm,
is this
hmm.
going to be a thing that I'm really like driving a stake into the ground about?
Right,
Or like, this second kid is probably going to have French fries sooner than Everett did
right.
because we're all going to, like, because the circumstances are going to be different.
It's
He's
just,
going to see
yes,
screen time earlier, although Everett was on the couch while I was watching Below Deck, what,
absolutely.
like,
I was never
um,
cra like super crazy. Yeah, like Tristan, and we, like I said, one of my favorite things to do when I'm alone is like watch a good show. Ryan's the same way. Like we're kind of a TV family. We love movies, movie nights. So yeah, Tristan was exposed to screens incredibly early. And Jack, honestly, yeah. I mean, I think you have to give yourself grace, especially when you like start having more kids. Like the more kids you have, like the more grace you have to give yourself because it's just like, what are you gonna do? Like, I mean, unless
yeah,
you want to just be screen free, which if you can do that, amazing for you. That's
that's,
not my life.
we know a family who does that. And
I
I
do
think
too.
I,
Amazing.
amazing.
Bow down. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Everett and I are watching Cars.
Yeah,
The Disney
totally.
Pixar movie. We're
We're
watching it
watching it.
constantly
Incredibles,
over and over
Spider-Man.
again.
Hmm, hmm. You know what? If Tristan's quiet, you can watch whatever you want. There was this meme I saw that was like, first kid, like, no, you can't watch TV until you're 3 or whatever it said. And then it was like, by the time you get like your third kid, it's like, I will pay you to watch Toy Story 1, 2, 3, and 4 in a row. It's like, exactly. How long have you been watching?
It's
2 hours?
true.
Oh, okay, it's
Well,
fine. It's fine.
and it's like what we talked about earlier. Like when you have one, you have more time and attention, and
And
there's just like
control. Like you just
more.
have more control too.
Yeah, you can. But then as there are more children,
Mm,
it's such an, I was gonna say lesson, but I think it'd be more accurate to say just like such an exercise
hmm.
in relinquishing control, of
Yes.
choosing your battles, of
Oh man.
surrendering, of, you know, just letting go of all of those expectations. And the first thing that popped into my mind, because we had Trisha Huffman recently on the show, and she has that book, F the Shoulds, Do the Wants.
Love
Like
it.
it really makes you just like F the shoulds, because you're
Yeah.
like, I have to. And what we
There's
also,
so
you
many
and I also
shows.
talked about earlier, you have to like
Yes.
consider the whole family
Yes. The
ecosystem.
whole picture, everyone in it, and your own personal sanity is like, is it really worth,
That's
you know, pulling screen time right now when you're like having a moment and you can do whatever it is you need to do? Like, probably not. Like, don't, let it go.
100%. And the reminder, and I feel like, again, this is something you demonstrate, like you model this just without, when you say it explicitly and when you don't, that like we, us, you, me, like we are a big part of that equation also,
Mm.
like honoring the entire
Oh,
family
yeah.
unit. And that like that very, if anything, it's not an even distribution. We need a little more, like paying
I
a
was
little more
literally
attention
just gonna
to
say
us
we're the
being
biggest.
okay.
Yeah, we're like the
You're
biggest
real.
piece of the pie, in my opinion, because if we're not okay, like kind of no one's okay. I mean, truly.
That's,
It's just, in my
I sort
opinion.
of, I got mad at Jeremy once about that because I was having a hard time. I was in a bad mood. And so it like infected everyone. And I was
Yeah.
kind of like, why can't I just not be okay? I was like,
Right.
you didn't do anything. You're not in trouble. We're not in a
Right.
fight. I'm just
Right.
having a shit day. Like,
Right.
why is it impossible for me to just have space to have a shit day? And he was like,
Right.
I don't know. And like, and he's like, I'm sorry. And I was like, this fucking sucks. And I was like,
Right.
this is just what it's like to be a mom. Like,
And then
when, like,
the
I don't,
mom guilt comes in, right? Then you're guilted for
yeah.
having a bad day. Yeah, I know. I feel you. I feel you.
And I
It's
was like,
tough.
that's it. I'm going on a walk. I was like, I'm gonna do, and he was like, I think that's great. He was like,
Yes.
come back whenever. Don't worry
Yes.
about it. Like
I
he
was
wanted
literally
to
just gonna
help.
say that. Yes, is like, and this goes to with like transitioning to having a second too. Like your first time around, I mean, you make mistakes with everything, but you're definitely gonna make some mistakes. And by that I mean maybe communication mistakes with your partner, maybe taking on too much and not asking for help when you should. And that for me was a big shift in having a second because I knew I was like, okay, Ryan and I are gonna have some come to Jesus conversations about like how this
Yeah.
is gonna work. And if I am feeling like that, where I just literally want everyone to like get the fuck away from me, then I am going to take a
Yeah.
minute and go on a walk, just like you just said, like go on, like remove yourself so that you don't. I mean, look, it's good for kids to see all sides of us, but at the same time, like you never really want like to bring down an entire
Oh my, yeah, when
family
you're
because
just,
you're in a
yeah.
bad mood. So like, yeah, and I would appreciate if Ryan did that too. Like if he's in a shitty mood, whatever, like go meet a friend, go for a walk, like do what you need to do for you. And same with
Yeah.
me. When I'm in a shitty mood, I'm going to do what I need to do for me as well. And like really having those conversations because you can't do it all as much as so many moms like try. It's you're going to burn out. And I remember a friend telling me that. Like she actually used those words. She's like, "Be careful, you're going to burn out." And she was 100% right.
Yeah. Oh, so, and what a reminder to, again, you like, I'm just gonna keep complimenting you. You
Keep
did
it
this
coming.
with Jack, where like also leaning on the support systems that you do have. And
Mhm.
and you talked about your mom played the main role in that, and
Oh,
it
that
could
was
be your
everything.
mom, it could be a baby nurse, it could be a babysitter, it could be your
Totally.
neighbor, it
Yeah.
could be your friend, it could be your sister,
Could be
whoever
your
it is
husband,
in
your
your life,
partner. Like, yeah.
whatever it is and whatever is available to you,
Yes.
finding that and leaning on that, and being okay, finding it within yourself to know that it's not even just like neutral or okay. That's really great. Like we
Hmm.
weren't meant to do this in isolation and to
No.
do it all, even though we've all internalized that messaging.
Yes. Yes. And sadly,
Oh,
society, we've kind of like shifted into that too, right? It's like very few people have multi-generational help anymore. Usually both
yeah.
partners work a lot of times now, so it's like it's that much harder. And your kids can't roam free like they used to. They're kind of always with you. So there's all these factors that do make parenting it's always hard, right? But I do feel modern parenting can be very, very challenging in these times. And especially, I mean, let's not even get into like the politics and all the other things that we have to deal with that like
Yeah.
parents of yesteryear did not have to deal with. And it's very challenging. So whenever you can delegate, wherever you can just have open lines of communication of like, if you need help or, friends, carpool, like literally, especially with two, like the more you have, then it's like
Yeah.
one has activities, then you have this newborn at home. And for me, in the middle of winter, he wasn't a newborn, but 5, 6 months old, I didn't want to necessarily take him everywhere. So luckily, you find your mom crew, kids that are the same age. You can count on them for carpooling, so you're not like lugging your 5-month old everywhere when it's 25 degrees outside. Like figuring out what can work for you and how everyone can kind of help each other. Bringing that community back, I think, is clutch if you can.
Mm. And yes.
Right? Right? You got,
Yes.
it's okay to ask for help. We've been taught that it's not, I feel like, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay.
We're shooting ourselves in the foot.
You are.
Oh, Juanina, thank you so much for your time and your everything and
Ah,
sharing
thank you. Thank you
yourself
for
and your
having me.
experiences. You're the best.
Ah, no,
Um,
you're the best. Anytime you want to chat, whether it's like this
I
on the
love it.
phone, over drinks, when you're ready, when
Oh,
the time
God, I
comes.
can't wait.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I
We're gonna
can't
have like a
wait.
fall gathering. Right. What do you do again?
It's June, beginning
Oh,
of
so
June.
maybe a summer gathering, depending on,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how things go
We'll see
because
how
we
it goes.
never
You
know.
never know. Yes. Lots of grace.
Thank you so much for sharing your precious time with me. I am so happy that you're here. I hope this episode resonated with you and maybe even inspired some insight into the myth of motherhood and how that shows up for you in your life. If you found yourself nodding your head along with this episode thinking, oh my God, did Alyssa read my journal? Or I feel so seen. Or even I'll have what she's having. You can. Check out our incredible community over in the private Facebook group Moms Club and visit me at alyssa-alter.com to download your free guide to the 20 things no one tells you about pregnancy and postpartum. Remember, there is no one right way to be a mother. There is only your right way. See you next week.